Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We are going to talk about our next topic within the preparation training for LPIC-303 security. Our today's topic is going to be under the host security, and today we are going to talk about the FreeIPA installation and FreeIPA in general. So today it's going to be only me holding the webinar, as Alex is not able to join. So let's not lose any time and start with content that we have prepared for today. According to the content, as you would find also under the objective of the LPIC-303 security, these are the following topics that need to be understood and need to be dealt with respect to preparing for an exam. Starting with understanding the FreeIPA architecture and components. The focus is here mostly on the components itself. Understanding the configuration prerequisites for installing FreeIPA. So this is something, that you can read out what you need for, let's say, hardware specific requests as memory and let's say also CPU and so on and so forth. So this is nothing very, very important. So we will skip this today. Then the next topic is installing and managing the FreeIPA server and domain. So this is something that we are going to demonstrate, and we are going to go a little bit deeper into how you can install and not only the server, but also client computers, managing users, adding users, and so on and so forth. The next topic about the Active Directory, configuring Active Directory and cross-realm trust with Kerberos is something that we are not going to touch. But I will provide references where you can read a little bit more about it if you are interested, especially in this topic. And last but not least, by looking at what we have as options and configuration settings on the FreeIPA server, we will be talking about the integration with sudo, SSH, SE, Linux of the FreeIPA. So we are going to touch on the last topic. So let's start with the components first. So FreeIPA, let's say it's kind of a modularly built project that includes a number of different components. Starting with a directory service, which is the 389 directory service, LDAP server. Let's say that this is the base tone of the whole identity and management solution, and it serves the information for let's say for all identity authentication, which we'll talk about, which is Kerberos and authorization services and other policies that you would need in the FreeIPA. So maybe something that I needed to say before. So FreeIPA stands for Free Identity Policy and Authentication, meaning that you have an identity management solution, a centralized identity management solution for Linux clients, and similar as you have it in the Windows, in the Microsoft world, where you have the Active Directory. So this, let's say that this is the analogy solution to Active Directory for the Linux world, but you can even integrate this with the Windows Active Directory, as we just said before. So let me continue with the next component that you would find on the FreeIPA, which is Kerberos. Kerberos is implemented it implements the MIT Kerberos. It provides the authentication services for the entire FreeIPA realm. So it's user services and other components. And it's based, let's say, it's a base component on the FreeIPA server. Another component that we have is the Pki component, which it implements the dog tag project. It signs and publishes certificates for the host and services that are running in the realm. It provides certificate revocation list. It provides the online certification status protocol for validating the published certificates. Well, what else it does? So the certificates used by the FreeIPA hosting clients have limited validity. Of course, the infrastructure needs to handle how you renew those certificates. And for that purpose, the certmonger daemon is running on all the clients. So this is this is one component that runs on the clients itself that handles the renewal and in a transparent way by using that service. The next component is the DNS. One must say that the DNS is an optional component, so it's not something that you really need to install. Nevertheless, DNS integration allows administrators to manage and serve DNS records in the domain using either the CLI of the FreeIPA server or the web UI. At the same time, administrator can benefit on this tight integration because, of course, it is to be assumed that the DNS management is somehow hard, not for everyone maybe, but for a lot of people out there. So the DNS is essential to have a decent Kerberos experience. So if we want to have centralized authentication and using Kerberos as the, let's say, the system providing single sign-on for services or users in the realm, this relies very, let's say, on the working DNS. What else? What are actually the goals by having the DNS? So it's well, one of the goals is not to provide a general purpose DNS server. So there are features beyond easing the FreeIPA deployment and maintenance are explicitly, let's say, out of scope. And it's optional, as I said, and you can use even other third-party DNS servers. But remember that then you have to manage all the different records out there. So this is something that you need to consider. This is something that you need to know with respect to how your infrastructure in general is being managed. Next is Ntp Server, using the NTPD from the server perspective or the cronny D, depending on what version you are using actually. And why you need an Ntp server? Well, as we know that Kerberos' protocol is very sensitive to a proper time synchronization between the key derivation, the key distribution center, and the authentication nodes. With time difference, let's say with some time difference minutes, in several minutes, authentication will not work. So for this reason, the server installer configure an NTP on each FreeIPA server. As I said, client and server installers detect two synchronization services, which is NTPD and Crony. So NTPD is required as Crony provides only NTP client services, and the client accepts already Crony. So in future versions, Crony D is should be preferred. So I think in the latest version that we will install, it's probably Crony D and not NTPD. We will see this during the short demo that we have prepared for today. So the next component, of course, you have a web user interface, which is, let's say, a JavaScript single application. It allows you, so it kind of mostly covers all the utilities that you would find in the command line interface. Therefore, from an administrative perspective, you can freely choose between performing management and administrative tasks on the web UI, or by using the CLI, or whatever you would feel comfortable with. So it's for performing its task, it utilizes JSON RPC interface to access the FreeIPA API, and this ensures that the data available, which are available, or changes which can be performed, are limited to the security context of the LDAP user that is performing those activities. So this is something to keep in mind. Another component is the trusts, which is actually the service against, well, the trust service against the Active Directory server that are provided through the integration of the Samba suite. Well, you would call this a kind of, it is not really a direct integration with Active Directory, as clients are not talking to the Active Directory directly, but they are talking actually to the FreeIPA server, and this is, let's say, it's taking over the trust between the two forests or the two directory services. So last but not least, you have also the client, which actually it implements the system security service daemon, and this uses, the client can use any standard protocol, for example, any LDAP or Kerberos, or even network information services from Linux. Nevertheless, the SSSD is providing the pseudo integration, some host based access control policies. What else do we have there? So you'd have the SE Linux user mapping. All of this is provided through the system security services daemon. So this is actually the one that is mostly being used in general. So these are mainly the, let's say, not mainly, but the basic components that are tightly integrated when you install the FreeIPA server. So for more information, please refer to the documentation. You would read there even more. There are a couple of blogs or even RSS feeds where people are integrating or are blogging about how you can integrate FreeIPA or how you can use it, for example, with DNSSEC. So you are very welcome and encouraged to go there and to read a little bit more about it. Nevertheless, this is in addition to what is expected for the LPIC exam. what you need to know is rather the components itself, how they are implemented, what are their functionalities and purposes. Well, looking at the architecture, so it's no, let's say it's no surprise now that we see a kind of, let's say not a kind of, but really a copy of those components that we just discussed. And in here we see them, let's say, systematically listed and organized into where they actually belong in the architecture. With the FreeIPA core, here it's meant the FreeIPA server, where you would find, as we just said, the DNS server, the Ntp server, the CA service, let's say the doc tag, and well, you have the Kerberos key distribution center. You have the directory server, which is the 389 directory server. On the client side, you have the SSSD, SSS daemon. You have the certmonger for using, let's say, taking the responsibility for tracking certification, validity, and provisioning. Well, you have many possibilities to authenticate against the directory server. So not only the SSSD can be used for that, so you can use, for example, the NSS LDAP, and there is even one more. Nevertheless, the most commonly used, or the most important one, is the SSSD. But this should just kind of give you the information that there you have also different possibilities authenticating against the directory servers. The management station. So, well, this is your client, your computer, your administrative computer that from which you are accessing the management framework, either via the CLI or via the web UI, and are managing, for example, installing client machines, installing the server itself, taking some configuration settings, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so this is about the architecture and the role of the different components that we explained in previously. So let's go to installing and managing the FreeIPA server and domain. So with that, I will get on my terminal. Let me clear this. So now, first we need to jump into the server that I have prepared for that. So this is, let's say, our machine that we will use as the machine for installing the FreeIPA server. Just for the sake of completeness, so let's see that we have some memory available, so that, yeah, we have 4 GB RAM in this machine, and we have mostly more than 3 GB RAM available. So if I remember correctly, you would need at least 2. And let's see how much space we have from this. So we have a root file system of 12 GB, and this should be more than sufficient for installing the server. So before we continue, what is important, as we said, we have to set up a host name that it can be resolved by the DNS server. So let's, so we should see that this is our host name. So we need to let's say so. To adopt that, so set host name, and we'll FreeIPA server. We'll call this LPIC Cloudical. Okay, so let's see that this happened. Yes. So now we have the right server name. Nevertheless, in addition to that, we need to tell the local DNS resolver to find this. So we need to adapt the file in here. So let me copy this before. Well, anyway, I'll copy this from my other copy that I have. So here we have the following name server as we see. So we now need to put the following here. So we know I know the IP address of that service. So let's put this in here. Okay. Now let's, for installing it, let's see if we have the right packages, if we have any packages at all. My typo. Okay, so well, it seemed that we don't have any packages, and the thing here is that by default the FreeIPA packages are not available in the CentOS standard repository. So then we'll need to enable that repository. So just say yes in here. After we enable it, let's check that now we have, we can find those. Yeah, so now we have the packages. So I have to go here so I can see my screen as well. So you have the server, which is the FreeIPA server. You have the DNS server and the Trost AD server, which is the service needed for doing the trust between the IPA server and the Active Directory. Nevertheless, we are not going to install this, because we are not going to touch on that. But before that, let's see that we have the latest packages. Okay, so I need to put sudo. So nothing is to complete. Okay, so now let's install the this server. So we need the IPA server. We would need the IPA DNS we want to install, and we'll just say yes to everything else. Okay, so I need to say server DNS, and now we should be good to go. So this can take some moment. So after we have installed the server, we then will configure it. So let's be a little bit patient and wait that this ends. So it takes a little bit, but nevertheless, I didn't want you to miss those first steps, as this are important, especially with respect to the different options that you can use and how you achieve that. Yeah, so now it's installing the C Linux packages. So this always takes a little bit of time, and soon this will going to be done. Okay, so okay, there we go. So we are done with that. Now we want to, after we have installed it, we want to configure it, and to configure it, you would go with the command IPA server install. So now that we have downloaded the packages, and here you have a couple of options that you can use, but the most important ones, and especially those that you want to remember for the exam, are set up DNS, which is a flag that with that you will start setting up the DNS. You want to have an ID start. This is going to be the ID of the first user that starts the service. So let's say 5,000 here. I'm just taking this by example, and we will see that this is not going to work straightforward, but just for the sake of completeness. And you can have also ID max, which is, well, let's say the maximum ID that you will have in your directory service. Kind of, you don't need to configure this. You can later change it, but just for the sake of knowing those options that you have in here. I'll go for it, and it's not going to work because, yeah, so if we see here in our logging definitions of our system, well, this needs to start by 60,000. So let me change just those values accordingly. So let's take 60,000, 60,001, and let's say we want to have this to 70,000. Okay, so now we start the configuration. What I don't really like in here is that this has not found the correct address. So let me break this and see set up DNS ID start. If I have missed something in my, yeah, so I've changed this. Okay, so again, I've got yep. So this is hostname. So our host name is set. So actually it should find from the host name the correct. Maybe I had a typo in here when I said it, the host name. So let me go back, and I think this is the problem. No, I thought I had something like that. Okay, let me try it again. Okay, so then we will provide this manually. So the server host name is this one. Okay, so we need the complete, we need the fully qualified domain name. Okay. This is what I forgot. Now that we have the so this is where we need to put in here. We should be ready to go. Now we have it. So in addition to the resolve, we need to put this onto the host itself, so that we can find, so that the system can find that automatically. So then you would just accept this and say enter. You would confirm again also the domain as it is founded. Well, the real name for Kerberos is the same as the domain, but just in capital letters. You need to enter some directory. So I need to enter it again. And the admin so the admin is going to be the one that it can enroll clients, and it can change the settings, while the directory manager is to configure the directory itself, for example, synchronization of the directory, and also putting the trust. So do you want to configure DNS forwarders? Yes, we want to configure. So this is the correct DNS forwarder on my side, and we will just confirm and say yes. We will skip this or edit. So we have this already, as we saw that we have this DNS forwarder. Do you want to search for missing reverse zone? Yes, let's do that. That exists a reverse for that. We want to configure the cronny. We'll say no in here, so we'll leave it with one. And so these are the settings. We'll see the host name is correct, the IP address, the subject, self-signed, forwarders we have, and just say yes in here, and we should be good to go. So this is also going to take a little bit. It's going to be faster than what we have waited before. So now you can see what it is doing. So it, for example, configured the Kerberos server. Now it's configuring the certificate server instance. It finished the directory server itself. So as we can see here as the first, what it did, it configured the directory server. So now that it's going to restart, so we see that in here it's using the doc tag service for the PKI, and it configured the certmonger for certificate renewals. It's not a surprise in here. So it's configuring all the components that we just introduced in the beginning of the webinar. And now it's doing some additional configuration with respect, for example, for configuring TLS for the directory service instance, adding the CA certificate entry, restarting the directory service so that you can securely communicate to the directory server via the certificates. And with that, we should be actually done for this part. Now the web interface was the next one. And now the Apache. So this is taking a little bit. So we are mostly done. SSSD enabled for authenticating against the directory services for clients. And yeah, so now we are done with that. As you would see in here, so you also need to think about some ports that you need to open on your network and firewall systems, some TCP ports and some UDP ports. We are not doing this here as I'm on a, let's say, isolated network where there is no firewall between systems. Nevertheless, in production environments where probably ports might be closed, for example, if you don't use LDAP or LDAP-S or Kerberos in your environment, then you would need to open those ports. Okay, so let us see and go to the web page and see that we can reach the system. Okay, so my browser doesn't let me through due to my settings. So let me try another one that probably I haven't hardened it. And this should actually give us the chance. Yeah, connection is not private. We know that. So let's proceed in here. And yeah, so it's not secure. So we have a certificate is invalid. Actually, this certificate we don't trust. So we need to trust this certificate. But if we just log in here, then you see that the server is now running. And we will go through the options in general. So let me go back to this. So what else can we do in here? Well, one of the things that you can do, for example, is get some Kerberos tickets. So you would do kinit, for example, with user admin. You would need to enter the user's password, and if you do klist, then you will see that you would have a Kerberos ticket for this principal, for the admin principal, and then you can see that this is a Kerberos ticket granting ticket. So this would allow that user for getting authentication tickets and for getting access to services without anymore contacting the key distribution center, but rather by using this ticket. What else you can do here? For example, you can, you have a lot of possibilities that you can do. So for example, so if you go for man IPA, you will find a lot of options in here. Let me just show you one. So user find, it will find the user from the Active Directory. So we have only the administrator for the moment as the user. And you can go, for example, IPA CTL help to learn a little bit more about it. So what you can do with this, you can start, stop, or restart, or get the status of the server. So let's get the status. So here you see that The directory service is running, Kerberos, the key admin, the DNS, the Apache, and all the other services that you need for your PKI, that these are running. Okay, so we are done installing this the server as we saw. So let me now jump to one of the clients that I have prepared, and we want to add this client to our. So let's go in here. So if we go to the host, you will see that this host, which is our FreeIPA server, is already added in here, and you have Kerberos presented and so on and so forth. So you can, you have the SSH keys, you can have different authentication methods for that host and so on and so forth. So we want to add another host in here, which is the client. What we need to do in here is, again, so we want to change the host name. You need to do this. So this is the IP address. So what I need to type it. Yeah, so what else? Yeah, we need this one to add this on the resolve. So that this server can be resolved through on the DNS of the IPA service that we installed. So let us add this here. So now, this is important because the IPA client setup takes care of the Kerberos. So Kerberos provided via the server through the DNS. So that's why this the correct DNS entry has to be done, to be added there. Now what you're doing here, let me check that host name, CTL status. Yeah, so that has changed. What we need to do here is starting the IPA client installed. And here, just remember this make home directory, which will allow you when you create users on the service, on the directory service, and they are logged into the clients, they end up into their home directory. Otherwise, they would end up into the root file, the root directory of the server. So let's start this. Yeah, so we don't have the packages in here. So, okay, I need to add the packages again. Well, we need to add need to say yes in here. And now IPA, I don't think we didn't even need the packages. Okay. IPA client install. We need to install the package first. Yes. After we install the package, and then we can start the configuration of the client. So this is something I was mixing. So we are complete with that. Then we want to run the command in here for configuring. We don't need the yum now. Okay, so we need to set this into our hosts, known hosts. So let me copy this. So this is something that you would need to do into all of the clients. So, okay, so now try again. Okay, so so this we added. What else? Did I add the solve conf? Ah, okay, this is something that. Your DNS domain name, so I don't know why this is now. Actually, let me see again. Okay, so what did I forget? Did I forget anything? So did I set the domain name? I set the domain name. Yeah, so this is set, so this is the 373. Okay, so I think no, I put it correctly. But anyway, I'll just stop it here and go into the, as we have only 5 minutes, it probably doesn't make any sense to dig into that right now. What I wanted also to show, it's a little bit about the interface in here. So this is what you have, the identity, the policy, and the authentication, where the name comes from. In the identity, you have users, identities, and we have only, for example, the admin. So you can add users from your CLI, for example. So I have, let me add the user in here, copy. So let me go back and in here. So yeah, so we have added the user. So if we go back in here and we refresh, you'll see that we added a user called Alice in here. So you have also hosts. So this is something that somehow it doesn't work. So, but anyway, I'm not going to dig anymore on that. You have services. You have different groups of users. As you can see, the IDs also here of the users start as we said. You have policies. For example, now you are allowing in everyone to access any host from any host. For example, if we want to disable it, and let's see, for example, if you want, you can test those in here. So let's test it. So we want to say if Alice is able to access, we have only the server for the moment via which service. So let's say SSH. Well, this is disabled, so we need to use one of these. As we disabled, if we run the test, then access is denied. So how we can do this? So we go to policies and we add another policy and we say SSH access and edit it. We choose, for example, Alice and say that Alice can use that rule, and we want to choose which host Alice can access. So let's go in here, and with that we should be good. After this, we can, for example, test the rule accessing. So this one via the service, which rule? Okay, we need to refresh. Now we have the rule as well. We need to go back and use, so we say Alice rule is SSH, and if we run the test, we say access is denied. So this is very interesting. If we go again here, host via service, I forgot to choose the service in here. So this is why it's not working. So if we want to test this again, now we should be access granted. So, and even if we use this on, and here, for example, we are on the client, and if we say alias at, let me use the IP address of this, of the server. So if we put the password correct, if I think I didn't. So now it's aliases on the FreeIPA server. And as I said, like you would end up into the root directory if we didn't use the make directory. So, but this is showing that we were able to access the service or the FreeIPA server with alias. Yeah, so with that, I will conclude it for today, and I'll see if there are any questions so far. While looking at the Q&A, I don't see any questions. So yeah, I'll dig afterwards into what was the problem by there. But anyway, if you would like to learn more, just find me and write me an email and contact me, and I will be happy to answer your questions and to exchange about your experiences with that service. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and wish you a nice evening, and see you next time. Bye-bye.